Hello, fifth graders. Today we're going to go over place values in decimals, how to round decimals, how to convert from decimals to fractions, and fractions to decimals. So the first one, place values in decimals, we're going to answer number 1 and number 4 together. So number 1, it says, in 401.64, which digit is the tens place? So before I answer these problems, I'm going to go over the place values with you. So when you have a decimal point over here, the numbers right of it, the immediate one is called the tens place. We start from the tens, not the ones as you would normally do. And then the next one is your hundredths. Now there's a th after it. And then the third one is your thousands. Now for this one, it only covers up to thousands, but if you were to go on and on, you would go from 10,000s, 100,000s, and so on like that. So number 1, it says which digit is the tens place. Now knowing this, it's easy to know that your digit is 6. 6 is the digit that is your tens place. Now number 4, it says in 872.983, in which place is the 3 in? Now it's asking you the name of this place value. And I showed you up here that place, third to the right of the decimal point, is your thousands place. So you're going to write thousands place. Now the second section is rounding decimals, and it says round to indicated place value. So number 1, 0.511, and you're rounding to the nearest hundredths. Now you gotta, before you're able to round, you need to know your place values, which we learned the last section. So nearest hundred is referring to this one. So you're rounding to that number, and when you're rounding to that number, you always have to look to the number to the right of it. And the right of that number you're rounding to is your thousands place, which is 1. And since 1 is less than 5, you're going to keep the 1 the same, and then the numbers left of it will be kept the same as well. So when you round it, it'll be just 0.51. Now we're going to number 2. It says 2.982, and you're rounding to the nearest hundreds. Now knowing your place values, your hundredths place is your 8. And then when you're determining if you're going to keep 8 the same or rounding up means you're just adding 1 to it, you're going to look at the number right of it. And the number right of it is 2. And since 2 is less than 5, you're going to keep your 8 the same. And when you keep the 8 the same, the numbers left of it will be kept the same, and the numbers right of it will all turn to 0. So number 2, round to the nearest hundred, is just 2.98. Fractions to decimals, and we're going to be converting. So we're going to start with number 1. It says 3 over 10. Now 3 over 10 can be written like this, and the middle sign over here represents a division sign. So essentially this symbol represents 3 divided by 10 like this. Now knowing this, if you know your division terms, you'll know that your 3 is your dividend, 10 is your divisor. And knowing this, you'll know that 3 goes inside this division sign and 10 goes on the outside. Now the thing with decimals is that your divisor will not go into your dividend. 10 does not go into 3 even once. So when we're trying to convert this into decimals, we're going to put a decimal point after 3, your dividend, and put a 0 after. So you're putting a point and a 0 right after your dividend because your 10 does not go into 3 at all. Now, when we look at this right now, we're going to ignore the decimal place and see only 30 inside the division sign. Now from this, ask yourself, how many times does 10 go into 30? 10 goes into 30 3 times. So just like regular division, I'm going to put a 3 on the top. And 10 times 3 is 30. And 30 minus 30 is 0. So now we're done because we ended up with 0 as a remainder. Now your final quotient does not mean it's 3. Your final quotient instead is 0.3. Now the reason why I put a decimal point over here is because it aligns with the decimal point I place inside the division sign. So it has to connect like this. So your final answer should be 0.3. So 3 over 10 converted into decimal is 0.3. So the way fraction decimal works is through the division sign. So we're going to do the same thing for 4 over 5. Now 4 over 5, as I've said, is the same thing as 4 divided by 5. And this becomes your dividend, and 5 is your divisor. Now same format, your dividend goes inside the division sign, and your divisor goes on the outside. So once you see that your divisor is greater than your dividend, you already know that you're trying to create a decimal. And since 5 does not go into 4 at all, you're going to add a decimal point and 0 after the 4. Now we can divide 40 by 5. 5 goes into 40 8 times. Because 5 times 8 is 40, and it goes in there perfectly because we end up with a remainder of 0, and we're done with our division over here. Now again, 8 is not your final quotient. Your final quotient is 0.8, so that your decimal point is brought up. Now 4 over 5 converted into a decimal is 0.8. Now the last section is converting from decimals to fractions, and it works a little bit differently. So you see your 0.8 over here. Your 8 is in the tens place, so I'll tell you right now what this means is that your 8 is over 10. So 0.8 is equal to 8 over 10. And if you notice how this pattern works is that your 8 is in your tens place, so you're going to put it over a 10, and then the 8 is just going to turn out to be your numerator. Now the simplified form of this is 4 over 5. So 0.8, simply put, is 4 over 5 in fraction. Pretty easy. Now, the reason why this is a shortcut that works is because if you go up in the previous section when we went from fractions to decimals, we were able to convert 3 over 10. I'm going to do this in red. We were able to convert 3 over 10 to equal 0.3. Now over here, you see your 3 is in your tens place, so you put the 3 over the 10. So that's what I did with 0.8, but instead went the opposite way. And I proved that this was able to work by showing you the division form of this. So this is a shortcut way of converting decimals to fractions to decimals. Now number 2, 0.22. Now this one goes to the hundredths place, and it works exactly the same way. It's at this time, since it's hundredths place, your denominator will be 100. And your numerator will become 22. And again, make sure you need to simplify. So 22 over 100 is 11 over 50 simplified. Now, and I'm going to show you again that this process works through division. So 11 over 50 over here is the same thing as 11 divided by 50, with 11 being your dividend and 50 being your divisor. Now, if I quickly work through this, 50 does not go into 11, so I'm going to add a point and a 0. 50 goes to 110, 2 times at most, and 110, and I'm going to bring another 0, add another 0, and bring it down. 50 goes into 102 times. Now 22 isn't your final answer. You'll add a decimal before that 0.22. Now this proves that this shortcut works. Now if you had a 0. For example, 383, your 3 ends up in the thousands place, so you should get 383 over 1,000. So this shortcut works either ways. And knowing this shortcut, when you're converting from fractions to decimals, you can use the same shortcut way. And that's it for today.